Over the last 25 years of NBA history, there's very few players, if any, who've had as much teammate help as Kevin Durant. And the post-Steph Curry era, despite numerous All-Stars, the coaches he wanted, and really being a player GM at one point, Kevin Durant's super teams have failed miserably. As since Golden State, this guy has won a total of 2 playoff series. Now, one of the common through lines with all Kevin Durant's teams that have failed is an overemphasis on scoring and offense, and basically kicking defense to the curb. As looking at his Nets teams, in 2021, they ranked 23rd defensive rating, 22, they ranked 19th, and in 2023, his last year with them, 13th. And if you look at those same Nets teams' offensive ratings, in 21, they were 1st, 22, 11th, and then 23, 17th. Looking at those stats right there, what you see in real time is Nets management, their GM, actually realizing offense isn't the way to go when building a championship team. As initially in 2021, when they were the best offense, they ranked 23rd in defense. But by 2023, both those categories kind of came back to the middle, and they're a mediocre team at best. Kind of proving the age-old point that defense wins championships. As having teammates like Kyrie Irving and James Harden, despite being great offensive players, I wouldn't pick those 2 guys specifically as my second and third options to put a championship team. Now look, KD's time in Brooklyn was a massive mistake, as the closest they got to the finals was Game 7 of the second round. So after that colossal failure, you would think Kevin Durant, on his new team in Phoenix, would kind of want to emphasize more of a defensive focus and less on the offensive end with a score-first teammate. But unfortunately for Suns fans, Kevin Durant's team once again has gone all in on the offensive end, as their big 3, just like Brooklyn, has 3 offensively minded players in Booker, Beal, and KD himself. And if you look at Phoenix's team last year, defensively, they were still pretty awful. As in the first round versus the Clippers, who were down 2 All-Stars most of the series, that Clippers team averaged 115.6 points per game. And versus Denver, it was even worse, as the Nuggets, with Jokic leading them, averaged 117.2 points, scoring 125 points plus 3 different times that series. If you're looking at those stats right there and you're a GM, what would you think? We need more offense, more scoring, someone like a Bradley Beal, or more defense and a more balanced attack. That's why the Bradley Beal trade to so many fans, it really was baffling. And in terms of moving the needle on championship hopes, it really didn't do that for me with this Suns roster. And looking back at Kevin Durant, he is 35 years old now and not getting any younger. And you would think with that age, with that wisdom, playing alongside Steph, Draymond, Klay Thompson on those great defensive Warriors teams, you would think KD of all people would value defense for a championship team. But somehow, unbeknownst to me, Kevin Durant still doesn't value defense and much rather go all in on offense, as according to him, offense wins championships. Definitely a bold claim I disagree with. And looking through NBA history, I think the last 20 years of NBA champions push back on that sentiment tremendously. As looking at the last 20 champions, their defensive rating from 2023 to 04, here's what you got. You'll notice off the bat, most of these teams, they're all really top 10 defenses, with only one outlier, that being the Nuggets last year, who ranked 15th in defensive rating. And I did find it pretty fascinating. 5 times in the last 20 years, the best defensive team in the league has won the championship. And 12 times, a top 5 defense has also won the title. Now, flipping the script, looking at offensive rating of those same 20 champions, here's what you got. I would say at face value, a pretty similar list. Most of these teams were top 10 offensive teams. And there are really only 2 outliers you have, the 2022 Warriors and the 04 Pistons, who I would consider mediocre offensive teams with top tier defenses. And if you take all these 20 teams, compare their offensive ratings versus their defensive ratings, here's the major takeaways I found. Out of those 20 teams, 12 teams had a higher defensive rating than offensive rating. 4 teams won a championship despite not having a top 10 offense, compared to vice versa, where only 2 teams won a championship with a top 10 defense. And pretty important note, 12 teams have won a championship with a top 5 defense, compared to only 9 with a top 5 offense. The old saying, the best offense beats the best defense, over the last 20 years, might not be true, as only 1 time in 20 years has the best offensive team walked away with a championship, compared to 5 times when the best defensive team was victorious at the end of the season. The conclusion I draw from this looking at the last 20 years is that while offense is very important, a vital piece of a team, if that's your best trait and you stink on defense, you're not winning the title. And vice versa, if you have a great defense, a trash offense, you may not win the title, but you're more likely than a really good offense and a bad defense. At the end of the day, if you have to pick one, a really good defensive team, mediocre offense, or mediocre defense, great offense, I would choose the first option of a great defense with a so-so offense. As again, according to NBA history, looking at the champions, that is more likely to win a championship than not. And looking back at Phoenix again, just my gut feeling on this, looking at history, looking at the Suns roster. This year for Phoenix, they're heading into a losing battle. And I feel pretty safe in saying, this Suns roster as constructed will not be the NBA champions for 2024. And my main problem with this Suns team, you have quotes from Kevin Durant, also Booker, saying this team offensively is unstoppable and their big 3 can't be matched. Again, your offense may be fantastic, top tier, even the best offense. But like we saw last year versus Denver, Booker and KD can get 40, 50 points, combine for 70, 80 points, and still get smacked and beaten in a playoff series. The overall point of this video is pretty simple. Let's all stop being fooled by the big 3s that are flashy and have great offenses. And again, looking at KD's own career, now having Booker and Beal, they're going to have the exact same fate as Kyrie, KD, and James Harden had in Brooklyn. And the last thing I do want to mention, looking back at those 20 championship teams, the 3 worst defensive teams out of that list were as follows: the 23 Nuggets, 16 Cavs, and 18 Warriors. All those teams, despite a meh defense, won the championship. And on those rosters, the driving force of those teams was Jokic, Steph Curry, and LeBron James. Point being, if you don't have those 3 guys in their prime, you're not winning a championship with a below average or average defense. And for someone like Kevin Durant, who's 35, pushing 36, 37, what year, 18 almost? I don't think KD right now is at top 10 all-time offensive level like those guys were in their prime. So with that being said, that is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.